Welcome to Fly Eats. My name is Jessica, your host, and we're here in Indianapolis, Indiana at... I didn't do that to me. Welcome to Fly Eats. My name is Jessica, your host, and we're here in Indianapolis, Indiana at Harry Izzys. My fly guest today is a proud member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. He is a Morehouse alum, a golf enthusiast, actually he's a golfer, he's legit. Yep. But he's also the senior pastor at Progressive Baptist Church here in Indianapolis. Welcome, Darian C. Bouie.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Darian. Should I call you Reverend?
No, that's cool.
Is that, I can call you Darian?
Yeah.
Okay, wasn't sure.
You actually know me.
I do. So like I said, we are here at Harry Izzys, the wonderful steakhouse, and we already got tons of food. I ordered the salmon, but I got it blackened in Oscar style, which I just learned what that meant. Darian put me on.
You're welcome.
It's lump crab and asparagus. I'm so excited to try this. Darian, what did you get?
I got the filet mignon cooked medium with mashed potatoes, garlic herb mashed potatoes.
Very classy and simple. We also got some Chipotle mac and cheese. We got some red pepper meatballs. That's gonna be for Darian because y'all know I don't eat meat. We also got fried green tomatoes, which I'm so excited to try because I love fried green tomatoes. And we also got some toasted ravioli. So yeah, we're about to go hard. Oh, and there's also bread that we should go ahead and open up so you can crack that open. They actually toast their bread in this garlic herb butter before they bring it out. So, you know, you can't say no to bread. Not today, at least. All right, so let's get to it. We can start.
Grace.
Oh, you can pray.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this food and this fellowship. In Christ's name we do pray. Bless this food. Amen.
Amen. Oh, that was good. That was nice.
You don't pray long when this food out.
Amen. All right, I'm so excited to be here. I should probably just like start eating.
This is fire.
Is it really good?
Yeah, you messed up like this.
Everything is like so pretty. All right, let's break up this asparagus.
Yeah.
Take a bite of this blackened salmon. It's really good. It's like perfectly baked. You know, sometimes people can overcook salmon, but it's really done well.
Dry salmon is horrible.
It is. Okay. Wow.
You want to try this?
That's really good. Get into these mashed potatoes.
That's fire. Don't get excited. Stay over there.
It's good.
I told you you shouldn't have got that.
Basically, I met Darian through my twin brother, who's really good friends with him, and in turn, he became one of my really good friends. But back in the day, my brother used to say, oh, you know, in Georgia, when they both were going to school in Georgia, he would say, oh, I'm about to go to visit my friend. He's a pastor. He be preaching. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. You know, we were really young, and for my brother to have known a pastor at that time, I'm like, who is this kid? Like, who is this person who would have you know, committed their life to such a big role so early on. So basically, let me know what got you started and what kind of brought you to the path of becoming a pastor.
Well, I accepted my call to ministry. I think I was 18.
Wow.
So ministry is a calling. It's the understanding that God designates certain people for certain assignments. Mm-hmm. So it's not something I chose for myself. It's not something I ever wanted to do. I don't have a father that's in ministry. My mother's not in ministry. My grandfather. So it's never something that I desired to do. It's something that I believed I was called to do. And so I ran from it for years because I didn't want to.
Really?
My dad died when I was really young, and I stopped going to church when I was like 10 years old, and I didn't start going back to church until maybe 13 or 14 because I was upset with God. I didn't understand the concept of God. And people would always say, everything happens for a reason,
right,
but nobody could ever tell me what the reason was. So I always felt this kind of discontent toward the church, and for years I just didn't want anything to do with it. Then I went to Morehouse, And then I started studying more of the theology stuff that I would later get into. And I think as my understanding grew, I better was able to comprehend who God was, or you know, some of what God had done in my life. And that is what drew me there. So I wasn't a pastor then, I was a minister. I was licensed. I was licensed to do ministry at 19. I didn't become a pastor until I was 31.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did ministry for years as a licensed minister. I did my ordination a while back as well, and then I've been a pastor now for almost a year.
When you got to that point, or that point came to you, did you feel like you were ready, or did you feel like maybe this came too soon? Like, what was your feelings behind it?
So being in ministry for those 12 or 13 years before I got called to pastor the church, I thought I had a desire to pastor, and I thought that I was ready. But the news is flooded with stories of pastors who didn't live up to their expectation. You know, people who got in trouble for different things, a great number of things, too many to be mentioned. And it was just like, because of that, the fear of failure, you know, kind of reinforced for me human insufficiency. So at the moment that I got the opportunity to accept the call to the church, when they called me, I just started crying.
Really?
Yeah, I was overwhelmed by it. In the same way that I was humbled for my friends to, you know, ask me for advice, I was humbled by the idea that a group of people had voted
and was ready for
me to be their pastor. And then it was all of these years flashing, you know, through my mind. The time, you know, when I lost my father, the time where I decided I wasn't going to go to church anymore, the times where rather than going to church on a Sunday morning, I went to the club on Saturday night because we were in college. I was, you know, irresponsible with the calling. So thinking of all of my shortcomings, you know, all in that moment, and then to have God through them make this selection, it was overwhelming. So to this day, I say every single Sunday to the church that I'm not sure how many Sundays it'll take for them to understand how honored and how grateful I am to be their pastor. I say it every single Sunday because I think it allows them to understand to a degree what it is that I feel, you know, about this responsibility.
What do you feel like you said at one point you were kind of questioning God and feeling like, you know, maybe the church wasn't a safe place for you to be at that point, if you felt so like, you know, kind of off there, you know, maybe not a comfortable place for you to be at. And there's so many people who I feel like question and who are, I don't want to say lost. I don't think lost is the right word, you know, because all of that is relative. I just think sometimes people, thank you. Searching is a way better word. And so for those people who are searching and who are hesitant to even walk into a church because of the whole, it's full of hypocrites and, you know, this pastor is this way, this church is that way, you know, I'm going in for this and I'm coming out with that. Like, do you feel like there's a separation? Like, what do you feel about people who go into church and just are unsure, you know, if this is where they want to be or where they can kind of fellowship, where they can grow because of all of the stigmas, negative stigmas that can sometimes come in with church?
So my encouragement for people is always to pursue a personal relationship for themselves. Start reading on your own, start praying on your own, because the church is exactly what you think it is a lot of times. And I think of it in this way: you wouldn't be upset if you went to the gym and saw someone overweight on a treadmill working out. You know, because they're trying to get better.
Right.
You wouldn't be upset if you walked into a hospital and there were people that were sick in a hospital bed. So in the same vein, you can't be upset when you go to church and there's imperfect people.
Right.
You know, it's a group of people seeking
trying to find their way
do the same thing you are. You know, they're finding their way. And so, like, one of the most profound things a mentor of mine told me is that at the end of the day, the man or woman of God is just a man or a woman. So, like, I go to church to see God, not to see people. So that's for me what it is, because if I were to base the entirety of my existence on what I see on the more linear kind of playing field of life, then I'm always going to be disappointed. You know, when you think about yourself, like, don't even direct it towards other people. Think about yourself. There's moments where you've let yourself down.
Right.
There's moments where you've set standards and expectations and you've blown those out of water.
Right. Let alone putting those standards on the whole, a whole community.
Put it on somebody else and have them try to live up to expectations that you fall beneath yourself.
Right.
So, like, more than anything, I think my perspective changed, and I think that's what got me back to church.
Okay.
Because I think knowing that church is something that's supposed to be edifying to me so that I can be a blessing to someone else.
Right.
That's what my help is. So we serve God even though our service benefits people.
Okay.
And so the Bible lets us know that we the way we treat the least of those, you know, those who don't, you know, deserve it, that's how we treat God. So if you learn to treat people who you don't like with Christian love, that reflects how you feel about God.
And that should be your only focus.
That should be your only focus.
Right.
Dr. Lawrence Edward Carter, he says that to somebody somewhere, you may be the only God they see. And so it's this idea that people need to see God.
Right.
And because we can't visibly see God,
right,
we see God through the actions of people who exemplify godly characteristics.
Right. I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
It is.
So how do you deal with having that pressure? You know, you're a young man, newly married, in this really beautiful position, but it can also be overwhelming, it can also be frustrating. You know, how do you separate, or do you separate you as a human being, you as a man, you're just Darian, you know, versus you are the senior pastor of a large church?
Well, I'm the senior pastor whether I'm at home or at a restaurant or
right, you're just you.
Anywhere. I'm always just me, but it's like the responsibility doesn't go anywhere. The only way to deal with life is one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's on tomorrow's agenda. I have no idea what's going to happen an hour from now. I can't deal with what I don't know about, but I can just try to prepare myself to the best of my ability. So I know it's just like, I liken it to like sports. You know, when you're preparing as let's say a basketball team, a football team, you don't know what the other team's going to do. Yeah. You just prepare to the best of your ability in case they do what it is that you plan for. They could do something completely different, you know, but at the end of the day, you don't want to go in there with no game plan at all. Right. That would be irresponsible. Yeah. So for me, I just try to prepare for each day to the best of my ability. Every morning I wake up, before I touch my cell phone, I say a prayer. My stance is that I should talk to God before I talk to other people. I try to read something every day. I try to do a little bit of exercise every day. Like there's moments where I'll take the stairs instead of the elevator. So I do all of these little preparatory things. So in moments where I have to do something, I have some semblance of a game plan. Right. So I'm not just in there, you know, reckless and just all over the place.
Well, okay, so like I said, you are newly married.
Yep.
And in a generation where, I mean, marriage is barely even a thing. You know, it's something that's kind of like on the back of people's mind at this point. Everyone is pretty content with situationships. Everyone is content with, you know, just not really thinking about marriage as a valuable like step as maybe it was or it once was. So how is it being newly married, having everything that you have going on? Or do you feel any different?
Oh, it's wonderful. I love my wife. She's dope. I have no issues with it. But I think a lot of it was, again, in the vein of being preparatory. So before she and I got married, I started to make adjustments that I knew marriage would require. Okay. So when we became married, it didn't feel like a culture shock. Yeah. So I think a lot of the steps that it takes to get toward marriage, people skip and think that being married will cause them to be different than when they were dating. Right. So we did like a year of premarital counseling before I proposed.
Oh wow!
So because
a whole year, that's a long time.
Yeah, so I think if you propose and then you do premarital counseling and it presents something contrary to what exists, right, you kind of reason against it. Right. So doing it before I got engaged, I feel like it was significantly less messy. So like, let's say God forbid, we decided to call off the engagement. Right. We weren't engaged. Yeah. We could have, you know, it would have been a lot less. Yeah. It would be a lot less stressful to kind of, and then it gives you a more open mind to receive what it is that you're studying,
right?
Versus like seeing something in a person but being like, oh my God, I love them so much, they'll change, kind of thing. Certain stuff about certain people, it might not ever change.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I ask myself is that if she were to stay exactly who she is now, would I be comfortable being married to her? And so I was able to say yes to that.
Right.
And so when growth happened, I was happy with growth, but I also knew that I fell in love with her and not the idea of her.
Right. So you knew the core of her, and you weren't
that's what gave me peace when it came to it. So not much has changed for us as far as being married, besides her last name and us owning property together. But other than that, not much is different because I try to practice better habits.
Right.
Early in my relationship goings, I wasn't necessarily the best person.
Yeah.
There's people that I dated before, and I didn't do a good job by them. I wasn't honest. I wasn't a good communicator. I wasn't a good listener, which is a part of effective communication. I was kind of blockaded, like I was guarded about certain things. And so, being overly sensitive, I might have come off as argumentative. So it's a lot of adjustments that I had to make. I had to make amends with people. There was women that I dated before I proposed to my wife. I went back and I apologized. I was like, I didn't do well with our relationship. There were some things I could have done better. I want you to go forward in your relationship.
Right.
And I don't want past baggage to be brought into a new situation and then weigh down what I could have. So like I wanted to make sure I got rid of all that stuff, because people discredit how important forgiveness is for the person that issues it.
Yeah.
So asking forgiveness, saying sorry, all of that stuff, like that's good for you. And so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any, toxicity in my heart about love and compassion, because, that'll weigh down. It'll come out at some point.
I wanted to talk to you about, so it was like a few months ago, I think Kirk Franklin and Erica Campbell from Mary both talked about this, about the whole concept of soul ties, right? And just what it means, and I guess my interpretation of what soul ties is, y'all, I'll tell you, is from what they were saying, it's pretty much all of the connections that you have prior, and if you don't heal from those connections and go forward and start a new relationship or a new, friendship, sometimes you can add that burden of whatever happened to you into the past into this new person, right? Is that like a fair description of what soul ties is?
Yep, that makes sense. Okay.
and so, watching both of their interviews, was both separate interviews, but they were both talking about, how important it is, like I said, to heal from your past and to, I guess, maybe gain closure to some certain extent, so that when you are with the next person, you can really come into it wholeheartedly, really come into it with a clean slate, not just for yourself, but also for that person, so you're not like adding the last chick's baggage into this chick without her even knowing. So what do you feel like that was something that you had to really like come to terms with, or something that you had to like be challenged by when you were like moving forward and deciding like, this is my wife, this is the person that I see and I'm going to like give 100% to?
Yeah, I had to do a lot of that.
Yeah.
It required a lot of deep conversation. It required blatant honesty, and I think that's the reason she and I still exist.
Yeah.
We've been together for years. We've been married now for some months, and I think the reason why we do exist is because I was able to kind of bare my soul, so to speak.
Yeah, I feel like they always I don't know who's they, but
they and them.
Right, they and them. All of them always kind of or tend to place the soul ties description or the whole theme of it on women. Like, we are the ones who are entered, we are the ones who bear every burden from every man that we've ever been with or every relationship that we've dealt with. And so that's something for us to specifically heal from. And I didn't really like that narrative, because I'm like, I think both sides have to heal. Both sides have to make sure that they go into something, without all of the extraness.
When I think of it even from the spiritual side of it,
yeah,
and you think of like the exchange that takes place, a lot of times some of the stuff that we get is from sleeping with people and like that exchange, like that connection between two people, because like spirits, like when you acknowledge that the spirit of something like slothfulness or pettiness, something like that, those are like negative spiritual traits. Those things can be passed on. So even like when you look at stuff in the Bible, when a spirit was cast out of somebody, it could go somewhere else. So people discredit like my sexual encounters. I can receive something from a person that I don't even know that they have. And so now you're bearing spiritual baggage that you had no idea that this other person was bringing. So now you have women who might become significantly more argumentative because they had a sexual exchange with a man who was
an argumentative person.
Or a man can end up having whatever kind of negative traits she might have had and passed on from somebody else. So it's like people passing on a lot of stuff and they're not coming to terms with these things, and they're just continually passing it on and dealing with other people and then never really sitting to figure out, what are the consequences of this. People normally believe like, I don't have a baby or an STD, I got out of this thing all right. But then you don't know what
not recognizing what type of energy that you might be bearing without even knowing. So now you're 5 years down the road, it's been, however many men or women you've slept with at this point, and now you don't know why you have a hard time trusting people. So you have a spirit of untrustworthiness on you or something like that. And now you don't want to talk to somebody. So you look at all those different things. So I just try to be mindful of that stuff and mindful of who I allow in my space. Like guarding your home, guarding your dreams, being mindful of that. I believe like dreams and prayers and things like that are like children. And so the same way mothers don't let their children out of the house early is because they're susceptible to disease and they don't want someone with dirty hands to infect their child. So there's some people who we encounter who are unqualified to hear or to handle our dreams because I don't know what's on their hands. Like I don't know what their intentions are. So there's some prayers I don't talk to people about. There's some dreams I don't share to other people. Like I don't have to tell you what it is that I'm trying to do for me to prove to you that I'm doing it. Well, I mean, so it kind of goes back to what you were saying. At the end of the day, those prayers and those dreams probably should just be solely focused on the one that you're talking to.
And that goes all back to the guarding my space, so like that intimate space. So to me, it's all the same thing. So in the same way, someone with negative hands and intentions could try to work against what it is I'm working toward. In that same way, someone that I'm in a relationship with can do harm to me, even though their desire might not have been to do so. But then I also can be the recipient of something unknowingly, and then it negatively impacts me going forward.
Is it hard for you to have these type of like real deal conversations with your church? You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, obviously it might just be a misconception or just like a thing or narrative that we all kind of put on the church of like, just like, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, certain things that you can't like touch on, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, they say come in and bear all, like tell me everything, you know what I'm saying? So is it hard, and do you feel like for you to like just be exactly who you are and just kind of explain things exactly how you've been explaining things?
You've known me for years.
I have.
I don't hold punches. I have no cut cards for like, if it is that, it is that. You've heard me preach before. So I tell the truth. Like the point of the Bible is to teach and preach biblical truth. So why would I withhold from people the power of what the Bible is supposed to do, for their feelings? I often tell people, I care more about your future than your feelings. So I'm aware of your feelings.
Like that.
Like I'm aware of them. I get that you have them. I understand that I might hurt them from time to time. But my investment in this relationship is more so toward your future than your feelings, because like what maturity has shown me over the years, feelings change. How I feel today, I might not feel in an hour. So like, why would I give that much weight to something that shifts that often? And then completely dismiss this idea of what my future can be. So I don't withhold information. If somebody's doing something that I don't believe is right, I'll let them know. But I always make sure that I'm able to substantiate my claim with something biblical. So like, I don't do a whole bunch of feeling talk. Like I want to make sure that what I'm saying is a fact. that it can be, backed up, that it's concrete, that it's something solid, because you can't tether yourself to something that's shifting and, ever changing. So I want to make sure that I tell people the honest truth, because that's the only way change happens.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that if it doesn't challenge you, it can never change you.
Right.
So if I never challenge the people of God to be better than they were when they walked in, then they'll never change.
You recently wrote like a really beautiful post on social media, pretty much breaking down like this is what a pastor is.
Mm-hmm.
Not what everyone sees on the big screen. Not everyone has the mega church. Not everyone is riding the Lamborghini from your tithes. Not everyone is, all those things and all those like really terrible. Not to say they're not true, because there's some who are doing just those things, but you kind of broke it down, which I loved, of like, for every 10 pastors that are like that, there's also hundreds of pastors who really just care about your heart, about your spirit, about the work that they've been called to do. So why did you feel like, was that just a moment that you felt like you just had to like share, or like what was that? What was the background behind you posting that?
It had been on my heart for a while.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of what the issues between people and communication are is that we don't ever see the whole thing.
No.
I think we always have a fragmented perspective of what is.
Mm-hmm.
Like with social media, you have people post what they want to.
Yeah.
I don't know many people who are going to post an eviction notice while they're getting evicted.
Right. I mean, it's definitely a highlight reel.
It's a highlight reel. So like,
sure.
it's not a realistic, perspective
depiction
of
everything.
what life is.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I wanted people to know, like, I'm 31 years old. I recently got the opportunity to be a pastor.
Right.
I'm not a multimillionaire. I don't own a private
Right, like that
jet.
just doesn't happen. People think you put a pastor title and that's it.
I don't own a private jet.
Right.
I don't even know where I can get one. I don't know where a Rolls Royce dealership is.
Right.
I don't own one.
Right.
I still had student loans.
Right.
I still have all of these normal things.
Right.
And so I wanted people to know the average pastor in the United States is bivocational.
Yeah.
They have 2 jobs at least.
Mm-hmm.
The average pastor in the United States pastors a church that's smaller than 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
The average pastor in the United States can't steal money from their church because their church doesn't make any money in the first place.
Right.
Churches get foreclosed. Hundreds and thousands of churches get foreclosed on every single year.
Yeah.
There's studies that show how many churches go out of business. So for every TD Jakes you see, there's 1,000 people in a shopping plaza somewhere that you've never even heard of.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like in Miami, it's the same way. You've driven down and you've seen a church on every single corner, and you have no idea who those people are.
Right.
I've walked in a church before and there was 8 members.
Yeah.
I've preached at a church and there was 3 people at service.
Mm-hmm.
I've been all over the country doing a bunch of different stuff, and like I better understand it.
Yeah.
So my frustration with people is that they speak with absolute certainty about things they know very little about.
Right.
And so more than anything, I think the reasoning behind my post was to give insight to those who have limited understanding.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be responsible for, the perpetuation of false stereotypes and all this other nonsense.
I think for me it was like just a reminder. Not that I didn't know that, about Darian. Not that I didn't know that about you at all.
But you get to
I
talk
know
to
you
me,
a real person.
Yeah, but you actually get to talk to me. Everybody doesn't get to talk to me.
But also, reading your words, I think, definitely gave me pause. I was like, oh, like, you're right, For every person that we see on TV and we're like, he makes this amount of money, and it's like, that's the topic. It's not about the sermon, it's not about the words, it's not about the service. It's specifically about
what money he has,
and how dare he look like this or dress like that, or why does he drive this car? Like, all that stuff doesn't matter. At the end of the day,
people rarely have background. Like, they'll bring up TD Jakes all the time. TD Jakes have been preaching for like 50 years.
Right.
A lot of people don't know. I think at one point he doesn't even get a salary from his church. So people are like, oh, he's stealing money from the church. The church don't even pay him.
Right.
He deferred his salary, to other stuff in the church. So he makes his money off of books, movies, and outside engagements when he does other stuff. Like, who is he stealing money from? So the people who do stuff at the church, like, people don't give. The church has bills. when you come in on Sunday morning, God don't just magically turn the lights on. Somebody paid the light bill on Saturday. You know what I mean? Like the air condition doesn't turn on by itself. Like the church has bills, and so when people talk about like benevolence ministry, when someone dies, can you help with the funeral costs? You know, that's a line item for the church.
Can I have another one? I ordered a Shirley Temple, y'all, like a little 12-year-old.
So like all that stuff is a line item for the church. So like I managed at one point a $1.4 million church budget.
Yeah.
And one of the items was the pastor's salary. There was like maintenance expenses, outsourced. They did a food ministry. So like they would buy food for people in the community. If somebody needed help with their light bill, they would pay their light bill or their cable bill or their rent. And so all of these are budget items in the church. And it's just, it frustrates me how people will criticize but not be participatory to make adjustments to or even find out information about. And so like we're in a culture where people are more likely to repeat what they've heard or to repost and retweet a headline, but they won't even read the article.
Right.
And so
sometimes the articles are like 3 years old too. Like people will see something and think that it's like
it just happened.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Went down, you know, and I mean, Charlamagne says this all the time in his interviews. It's always like, why tell the truth when the lie's more entertaining?
It's way more entertaining.
You
That's
know?
what happens, and I feel like.
So, like you said, people get so caught up on whatever headline is brought up, and like you said, not knowing the backstory, not understanding, you know, where anything comes from, because there's obviously more sides to the story usually.
Oh yeah, pastoral ministry. I think the most frustration I get.
Thank you.
Is when Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Is when somebody says something like, "Oh, I'm looking for a job. I think I'm gonna be a pastor too," or "I'm trying to make some money." Like pastors are balling. Like I'm trying to be, and like they don't understand the heartache, preparation, and everything else that goes into it. There was 1 week I went to like 4 funerals in a week, but people don't see you. Like they think you only work on Sunday. People don't know that it takes 40 hours for some people to prepare a sermon.
Right.
You know, people don't see that. I go visit people in the hospital. I sit with people during their chemo treatments. That I go to grave sites. I visit, you know, and these are members
your
and
job
families.
is more than just that Sunday morning.
But people don't get that. And these are, a lot of times these are people that I might not even directly have met, but they're connected to a person that's a member, and because that member is hurting, I share in that hurt.
Right.
They don't get that my phone doesn't turn off. I might get a phone call at midnight. Somebody saying that their auntie just fell down the stairs. Like that happens.
Yeah.
Like, you know, those types of conversations happen, and you know, you might need to go bail somebody out of jail. But people don't give you credit for that. They don't give you any type of empathy in regard to your profession, because they think it's all show.
Yeah.
And
I mean, like you said, it's like it's really just based on like the culture right now with social media, with the highlight reel movement, I guess, that everyone is only able to see, you know, just a glimpse. That's really what it is. You know, you post a picture and it's just a glimpse. If I'm smiling in every picture, you're not gonna know the sad nights. And that's because, yes, I'm the one that's portraying that, but it's still not for you to not understand that there might be something more behind my life than just the 2 minutes that you see, or even just the hour and a half that you preach, or any of those things. But at the same token, social media and all of it is really important, I guess, right now for marketing. You know, it's important to kind of like, well, I don't know if it's really important. I guess I should ask you, do you feel like it's important? It's an important factor when it comes to building your church, building your community, and really watching it progress? Because I mean, your point is to try to make it, you know, as great as it can be.
It is important, but for that reason, I think that's why I have diversity in my highlight reel. Yeah. I posted that to my social media. I didn't post it and take it down. It's still there.
No, that picture, y'all, he was like in tears, and I was like, ooh.
If you go to my social media, it's diverse. I travel, I play golf, I go fishing. You know, I love to eat different things and go different places. You know, all of that is a part of me, and I try to best convey that. You know, on my highlight reel, so to speak, just so people can have a more nuanced view, of like a full perspective of who I am. Right. Because life is more than just, you know, the high moments. Life is more than just, you know, what trip I took this time. there are some down points.
Yeah.
There are some miserable moments. People do wrestle with depression.
Right.
There are some people who have suicidal thoughts. There are some people who are dealing with cancer and different things like that. But then there are some good things that happen even during that time. So I do see social media as a great tool if it's used properly.
Right.
So
How are you using that tool to benefit the church right now?
Well, right now I try to promote the things that the church is doing.
Yeah.
And then I also try to promote myself because a part of the gravitas that the church has are the leaders or the members that are in the church. So there are people that will go to somebody's church because they like whoever goes to that church. So a lot of it is built around the personality of the pastor or the people that go to that church or the different things that are going on. So a lot of people know who like Michael Todd is, or who T.D. Jakes is, or who Jamal Bryant is, but they might not even know the name of their church. Right. So
that's true.
A lot of it is around the personality of the person that's preaching. True. So I think for me, I want people to get to know me a little bit better, because then it'll redirect their attention to the church, and then prayerfully I can redirect their attention to God as well, because more than anything, I think that's the responsibility of a pastor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of social media. As much as we all talk all type of ways about it, I mean, it does create that reach for you.
It does.
And it does allow people to, especially when you are being authentic, I think it does show. And people can go on your page and recognize like, oh, wow, okay, this is someone who looks like me, who sounds like me, who talks like me, who's not, talking down to me, who's not trying to make me feel like they're better than me. There's a lot of things that I feel like people really think about when they are deciding what church or just what space period that they want to be in and what they want to be around.
Yeah, like it is a tool, and a tool can be used properly or it can be used improperly. So,
are you not gonna try a fried green tomato?
Oh, I told you I wouldn't do that.
Why not? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I know we took a long time to get to this, but they have fried green tomatoes at Harry Izzys, and I love fried green tomatoes. You not gonna try it?
It's not the
He's
Lord's
a
will
hater.
for my life.
He doesn't want to try. It's still really crispy too, even though we waited a while to have it. So I'm gonna try the first bite.
It's probably cold.
It's good.
Don't guess it.
I'm not.
You're not gonna sell me into biting that. So
You should try it.
I don't like tomatoes.
It's good though. The batter is like kind of sweet, on the sweet and tangy side.
Nothing you're saying is appealing to me.
It's like crispy.
It looks like it would be good if it was shrimp in the middle.
No, it's amazing.
I'll pass it.
It's really, really good. All right, well, fine.
You have all those. You should have just asked them for one. Because I don't know who's about to help you eat any of that.
It's so good though.
Alright, I hope you get a to-go box.
Wow. Yeah. I obviously really like it, but so what do you envision for yourself and for the church, like going forward? Like, what's the game plan for you, do you think?
This year our focus is being community involved. So last year I proposed this idea called 1 Mile Ministry. And that is using the church as the epicenter to do ministry within a mile of the church. Because I think it's a crime when churches are in communities but not for communities. So I think a part of the responsibility of any church, regardless of where it's located, is to be beneficial to the people that live there. So I posed the question in a church meeting as to whether or not the house that's directly next to our church, did anyone know that man or woman's name? And nobody knew that man or woman's name. So I started to see that there was a gap in what we were providing. So if we have church every single Sunday and the person that lives literally next door is not even willing to walk to where we are, or even,
there's a disconnect.
So they don't even have to be members. But at the very least, we should know their name. We should be neighborly. So I think a part of our responsibility is that. So the 1 Mile Ministry is one of the things that we're doing. We're gonna do a back to school something. I had a conversation with a beauty school, and they do free haircuts, and they do free hairstyles for young ladies.
I love that.
And so, trying to figure out how to do different things to be impactful. My wife suggested a coat drive.
Yeah.
So because it gets cold here, this is in Miami.
Very cold.
Giving coats to some families who otherwise might not be able to have access to them. And there's a couple other things throughout the year. So my vision for the church is for us to be more than a building.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people ought to know that there are people in this building that genuinely believe in what it is that they profess to believe in. And so I want us to just be advocates for people who don't have a voice, to be willing to walk alongside some people who feel like they have no friends, and not to do for people, but to do it with them. Okay. Yeah. So giving money and throwing it at the problem, that's not.
I mean, that's not gonna save.
That doesn't build.
That's not saving folks.
Yeah. So I want us to be there to go alongside with our brothers and sisters, and it's. For me, it's not even a church thing, like specifically. Like, you don't have to be a Christian for us to be of help to you. Okay. You can be atheist. Yeah. You can be Muslim. You can embrace Hinduism, Taoism, Judaism. Yeah. Whatever your thing is, we still are responsible to love one another. Right. That's the very least we can do. To love one another. It doesn't cost me anything to give love to somebody else. Yeah. So, like, even if the people decide that I'm never gonna go to this church a day of my life, that's absolutely fine.
That's fine.
And that's your prerogative. Yeah. But we can still be all right with one another. Yeah. And so I'm an embracer of all. I'm a lover of all. I have no hate in my heart for anybody, and I want people to understand, like, life is significantly more beautiful when it's lived that way. It's a lot less stressful too. Like it takes way too much emotional, payment to hate somebody. Yeah. That's taxing.
It is.
To have unforgiveness in your heart, that's taxing.
It takes too much out of you. It's draining.
Having strokes early and heart attacks and all type of stuff.
So now you're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
We haven't launched the podcast. It's on the radio station here in the city.
Oh, okay.
We're on AM 1310 The Light. And so it's myself, Deidre Gray, Pastor Jeffrey Johnson II, and my boy Jay Thomas. And he's a musician, producer, singer, everything. He's DJ Thomas. Okay. And so that's my guy. So the four of us, it's called the Fellowship Hour. Yeah. And so we spend an hour on the radio station just talking about current events and different theological things that might come up. Yeah. And, we have different segments. And so we launched a week ago. Yeah. So we do every Monday at 7 p.m. here in Indianapolis. And then my church, our sermon broadcast, the sermons that I preach on Sundays are broadcast on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on AM 1310 and FM 92.7 here in Indianapolis. So I'm trying to do a couple things.
Yeah, I mean, you're being like really accessible. Like,
trying to do a couple things.
Yeah, but I think that definitely shows your age because you're kind of making sure that your reach is like
vast.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you gotta cast a wide net. And then you have to cast it in places where fish are. Or else it's pointless. Like, I feel like if evil is everywhere, goodness likewise should be. Yeah. So like we should try to promote good things as often as we can, as many places as we can, because some people, their reasoning for not going or not hearing is because they ain't nobody said nothing. Yeah. So now I'm trying to aid in minimizing the excuses.
Yeah. Well, what time is service on Sundays?
10 a.m. every single Sunday. 4625 West 59th Street here in Indianapolis, Indiana.
If you're in Indiana, you ain't got no excuse.
No excuse.
Okay?
Every Sunday morning, Progressive Baptist Church, 4625 West 59th Street. And we try to keep you for an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think God stays in church all day. I don't think so.
Because I definitely was one of those kids that when I would go to church with my mom, we sliding in at 10 and we ain't out till like 3.
See, I don't believe in that.
Okay.
That's not the Lord's will for my life.
So see, you guys can go nice. Get your word and roll out.
Yeah. We try to do church in 75 minutes. We've had some long days, so it's like 85, hour 20, 25, something like that.
But y'all, it's worth it, okay? This man knows how to preach.
You're kind.
Okay? And not just because he's my friend, but but I think you're even harder on your friends. And so the first time I saw you preach, I was like blown away because, like I said, I only had heard about anything that you've done through my brother, and so I had never really witnessed it on my own. And coming in, I really didn't have much expectations. I was just kind of like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna just,
I'll entertain this.
But a little bit. But when I started standing up, and I'm like, wait a minute, like this is, and I mean, I'm the type of person, I look for that, I'm here, I want to hear the gems, I want to feel connected, and it kind of connects you back into yourself. And so that is something that's a gift. I don't feel like every pastor has that, but I do believe that this man here,
Okay. I appreciate you.
So my last question, what makes you so fly?
I think being able to define for myself what it is that I desire for myself. Not being confined by the expectations of other people, and being willing to try different things, even if it means failing before I succeed.
I like that.
And my suits are nice, so that always helps.
That's like the cherry on the top. But I'll make sure to add all of Darian's information down below of this video. We'll make sure that we add the address and service times for Progressive Baptist Church here in Indianapolis. Thank you so much to Harry Izzys for having us and for this really bomb meal. I'm gonna go hard on these fried green tomatoes that Darian is hating on. In the meantime, make sure that you guys like, share, subscribe, and follow us at Fly East Show on all social media platforms. I will make sure I'll add Darian's information as well so you can follow him and hear the word.
Amen.
And we'll catch you on the next episode of Fly Eats.
Yes.
Bye.
Peace.